Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Mosher, and this is the Mosher Media Podcast. Today, I want to pose a question. My favorite question. It's the one I use when I'm stressed or irritated or just really frustrated with myself. I say, what am I doing? And what am I doing is an incredible question. What am I doing can take so many great forms. What am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? How did I get here? Should I stay the course or give up? All of these are little branches of the idea. What am I doing? As a question you ask yourself when you're frustrated. Sometimes when you walk into a room and you forget why you went into the room. You forgot what you needed. You don't remember the purpose of going in that room. What you have to do here is retrace your steps. You have to remember why you went in the room. You have to kind of go back to the other room and look for the reason that you initiated this journey. You have to go back to all the choices and thinking and reasoning that went into arriving at the moment where you forgot what you were doing. You just stopped and said, I don't remember why I came in this room. Your career is a relationship. It's like a marriage. Mine happens to be in the media business, in video production, and I find myself in the situation where even at age 45, I can say I've been doing this 27 years. And in a way, it's like I got married early. I decided at age 18 that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I took a few college classes, worked a few side jobs while getting the video production career off the ground. And looking back, I'm glad I did. But next thing you know, you've got 3 decades in this. It is a marriage. This is why college students stress out when they're picking their college major. They know they're embarking on this journey. And as you think about your career as a marriage, you realize that, well, maybe this won't work out. A lot of marriages fail. And perhaps I will divorce this career and I'll find another one. But when things are not going well in our career or in our chosen life's work, we may ask ourselves, what am I doing? You might find yourself in a moment at your office where things are not going well, where you just feel like you shouldn't be there anymore. And you might say, what am I doing? You have to retrace your steps. Think for the youthful enthusiasm you had for your field or your line of work when you first started, or the moment that you picked your college major. I have a 1984 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, the black T-top. It looks like Knight Rider. If you remember the TV show Knight Rider, if you remember the kit car. So in 1982 or 83, when that show first came on, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I was the perfect audience for this show. This show was created by NBC for those of us who were, as kids, watching the Dukes of Hazzard and we liked the General Lee and we thought that Bo and Luke Duke were cool. Or maybe you remember watching the show Chips and Ponch and John or the California Highway Patrol on the motorcycles. These are the action-adventure shows, and of course that led to the A-Team. And before that, of course, was Starsky and Hutch, and they had a cool car and all that kind of stuff. But from my childhood, my favorite car, and the one I always wanted, was the Knight Rider car, the kit. So a few years ago, I found an 84 Trans Am, Firebird Trans Am with the T-tops. And it didn't have the right wheels, and it wasn't painted like it, but it was black, but it had the tan around, the tan trim around the back, and it didn't quite have the right seats, but it was pretty close to the car that they used in Knight Rider. So I bought it, and I bought it from a dealer in Wisconsin, and it was shipped to me here in Fairlawn, Ohio, and it arrived, and I thought, well, I've got a kit car. And I don't really want to get into turning it into the kit car. There are actually kits that you can buy. Knight Rider enthusiasts, who are probably all between the age of 35 and 45 and 50, like me, and maybe they just have too much free time on their hands, or maybe their obsession with the show and the kit car. I'm not going to judge. I have the same obsession, but I don't know if I'm ready at this point in my life to take this Firebird Trans Am and swap out the dashboard for all the fancy electronics and gadgets that Kit had. Of course, I'm not going to install the turbo boost. This is a fictional idea. The car can't really turbo boost, right? I get it. So I just enjoy owning this car and driving it around town, and some of my friends call me crazy, and I always take that as a compliment. When they say, you are, I can't repeat what they say, but they say, you are crazy. And I always take that as a compliment because I think they mean it kind of in a loving sort of way. So since I bought this kit car, this Knight Rider, I've been thinking about finding the right wheels, the wheels that were actually used on the kit car. And then I've been thinking about finding the right seats. And I've been looking at Pontiac Firebird Trans Ams that are in junkyards. And down south, of course, in the Carolinas and into Georgia, you can find these cars in junkyards. And they don't rust out as quickly because they didn't use the salt on the roads like we do here in Ohio. So recently I found a 1982 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. And it was in parts, or just kind of, it had been taken apart. Somebody was going to restore it and didn't follow through with it. So the car is fairly disassembled. And I bought it, and I had it shipped, mostly because I didn't care about the car. This 82 Trans Am had the seats I wanted and the wheels I wanted. And the price was the same as what folks were asking for the set of wheels on eBay. So basically, for the price of the set of wheels, I got an entire car. So this car arrives, this 82 Trans Am, and somebody had sanded it but not painted it. So it's basically, I have an old Trans Am that's primer colored in my driveway with all of the interior parts disassembled and in various positions all over the car and through the hatchback. And my neighbors must think I'm crazy. So the problem I have with this 82 is that my mechanic friend, my very talented and brilliant friend who's going to come by, he wants to look at it because he always helps me with car projects. He can rebuild a car from scratch. He knows, especially in 82 or in 84, where you could really get in and wrench, as they say. So he comes by and he looks at this 82 and he says, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm just going to take the wheels and the seats and I don't know, maybe scrap the rest. I don't. So he opens the hood and he's like, this probably could run. Have you tried turning it over? So I went out and got a new battery and I tried, and it gave a glimmer of hope. And he said something to the effect of, well, the crankshaft turns. It sounded like it could turn over. This car is probably worth putting some money into to see if you could get it running. And if it runs, because the body was in good shape and all the parts are in good shape, you might want to just put this car back together and have two. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'll have two Knight Riders. I'll have it painted black. It has the real T-tops. It has the GM factory T-tops. It could be the real Knight Rider. And it was an 82, like the one they used on the show. So the problem I have is I have this second Trans Am, this 82 that I bought, came from Minnesota. The first one came from Wisconsin. I learned how to do the out-of-state title. There's a process. You can't just go to the title bureau. You have to go to the BMV first, and they verify the VIN number on the car because it's coming from out of state. So they don't want any funny business. They want to verify that it's not stolen or that there's not a lien on it, that we're transferring a car across state lines. So there's an extra step. You have to go to the BMV first, have them verify the VIN number to the original title of the car that you received from the seller, and then you go over to the title bureau and you have the car put in your name, and then you have to go back to the license bureau to get your plates. So it's a whole big process. So the problem I have with this 82 is that the VIN number plate on the windshield, underneath the windshield on the dashboard, has rusted. The VIN is not legible. So the BMV cannot verify it. And the car doesn't drive. The car doesn't start. So what I did was, before I went to the BMV with the car, because I'd have to pay to have it towed to the BMV, I took a picture of it with my cell phone. Took a picture of the VIN, and I opened the door. I'm looking for other places on the car where the VIN would be printed or located. And on the door panel, the VIN is missing. And I thought, well, this is not good. So I go over there to the BMV and I show them these pictures of this car and I say, hey, I've got this car. I'm going to restore it and I'd like to. And they said, you have to call the Ohio State Highway Patrol and you have to take the car up to Cleveland to this special office called the Salvage Office. Here's the point of the story. At that moment, I thought to myself, what am I doing? How did I wind up with two Trans Ams? Is this hobby, this collection, this pastime getting out of hand? For one brief moment, I forgot what I was doing here, and I went to the question, what am I doing? And then I thought back to all the years that I have been looking for the perfect car, the one I really wanted, to live my childhood fantasy of having a Knight Rider car. And I remembered all the searches and all the visiting car lots and all the looking at cars that I thought were hopeless. And I had, in my life, I visited a few junkyards where I've thought about digging out some old Trans Ams. And I thought, well, I've looked at lost causes and thought, I'd pass on this. I cannot take this on. But at this moment now, I've already made it this far. I own this car. Well, technically I don't. It's not titled to me yet. But what am I doing? Should I just rip the wheels off, take the seats, and scrap the rest of it? Am I going to see this through? I'm at a critical point, and that's when you say, what am I doing? And that what am I doing question allows you to go back to the beginning of the journey and think it through. I run what I think is an incredible intern program at our company. We have created an entire YouTube channel and website and local television interview show here in Akron, Ohio called Akron Buzz. And I collaborate with other local news and media outlets and professionals. So the local radio station newsroom in town and where we are physically located, where this Akron Buzz studio is in a building next to the legendary Akron radio station WAKR. So we have an unofficial relationship with them by proximity and by their awareness of who we are, and they will come over and be guests on our show, and we will plug them, and we have a great relationship. And what happens is when we have video production interns from Kent State or the University of Akron or any other colleges in the area work with us for a summer, they can go over and be a part of the newsroom if they would like. They can certainly shadow activities happening in the newsroom. And it's a great program for everybody that likes all things media. But I had this situation where a college student was coming out to Akron Buzz to interview. And the way I do it, most of the college students that are coming into Akron Buzz know that there's going to be some documentary style local television production where we do some feature stories, we do some live to tape interviews in the studio. Of course, nothing is to tape anymore, but the format is called live to tape. Think of Between Two Ferns, that kind of thing. And I always liked local television. Certainly, I love community affairs programming, and it's sort of a dying breed, and very few, it seems, anymore are interested in civics, what's happening in my community, and local journalism is dying and all of that stuff. So I'm passionate about this, and I'd like to do all of this, and I like to have an intern program that's meaningful. So we created this Akron Buzz about 10 or 12 years ago, and it gets really strong during the summer when we have a lot of students. But I had a college student that was scheduled to come out to be interviewed, and he was mostly interested in photojournalism. And about a day before the interview, and these interviews happen at the Akron Buzz studio, and most of the college students don't know anything about Mosher Media or any of our other video production businesses. They just know that Akron Buzz has a great intern program and that we give you cameras and we let you have all the editing equipment and we really support you and we do a great job of helping you with job coaching. They know all that, but they don't know the association with Mosher Media for the most part. So this particular student that was coming out for an interview, I reviewed his portfolio and resume, and I knew where he went to high school because I went to the same high school. And I thought, okay, this is a standout candidate. I would like to interview him at Mosher Media in Fairlawn, Ohio, rather than at the Akron Buzz studio in Akron, so that this is a standout candidate. Maybe he could intern at Mosher Media. So I called him the next morning, the morning of his interview, about an hour or two before. And the Mosher Media studio and the Akron Buzz studio are really right down the street from each other, about 2 miles apart. And I said, hey, would you come over to the Mosher Media office? We are one of the sponsors. We are one of the founding media partners of Akron Buzz. And I play a good role in putting the program together. I said, why don't you come out and see me at my office? Because I'd like to meet you and talk to you in person and have you do your interview here. And some of the other producers for Akron Buzz and people that are involved with other video production companies that are in our mix happen to be in Fairlawn, and I thought we could just meet him at Fairlawn. So he was okay with this last-minute change, and I gave him the address of, on West Market Street here, just 2 miles down from where the Akron Buzz studio is, and he agreed to show up. So he comes in and he interviews with some of the Akron Buzz producers that happen to be there. And I had somebody else show up at my office at 10 a.m., the same time that he showed up. So I told him, I said, why don't you meet with some of the producers and let them explain to you the Akron Buzz program, and I'd like to talk to you, but I have to meet with this person and I'll see you in about 15 minutes. So he goes in and he talks to everybody Akron Buzz. And then he comes in and sees me, but somebody else is also in the room at the time. And I take about 10 or 15 minutes and I interview him about where he wants to go in life. I said, what kind of career do you want to have? I said, what are you into? And I told him a little bit about Mosher Media and about these other programs we have and the clients we have and some of the projects I might want him involved with. And he said, okay. I said, why don't you start next Thursday? And he said, fine. That's great. I said, I'll see you next Thursday. Come over here at about 9 o'clock. We'll get started. He calls me the following Wednesday and says, I put some thought into it, and I am not going to intern with your company or with Akron Buzz. I said, oh, okay. Did you found an internship somewhere else? No problem. He said, no, I just have to tell you that I found my interview with you to be very disrespectful. You didn't ask me any questions about my portfolio. You didn't even look at my work. And I was so very disrespected by that, I don't think I can work with you. And I said, oh my gosh. And of course, my reaction is just go with it. I feel terrible. I said, I just feel awful that you had such a bad experience. He goes, and you had other people in the room, and I have to tell you that the Akron Buzz producer told me something different about what Akron Buzz does versus what you told me. And I was just taken aback by this young man's just absolute frustration, or somehow he was so offended by what this experience was. I did not bother to tell him. I did not bother to tell him that the reason that he interviewed in Fairlawn is that I had already looked at his portfolio and that I had reviewed his resume in length, and I was extremely impressed, and that I had an incredible photography opportunity on a big project that we had coming up for a major client, a national brand. And he might have had a photography role in that, in a more of not a shadowing, but I might have given him an opportunity to play an important role. And certainly we explained to clients that we have an intern for the summer, we have somebody shadowing, and that they're going to be doing something, and we don't bill for that time, but we want to give that college student exposure to a little bit of real client work. And he was the one I had nominated because I was so impressed with his resume and so impressed with his portfolio. But he will never have that opportunity because he called me and said that he was offended that I didn't look at his portfolio while we were in the meeting. And I didn't explain to him. I just said, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, and I wish you the best. And he said, okay. And we hung up. And I was just absolutely in disbelief. And at that moment, I was frustrated. And I said, what am I doing? Our company commits thousands of dollars, not just in equipment, but in our staff time. We commit labor. It is expensive to run an intern program. We don't bill for interns' time. We don't make any money on what they do. The benefit to our company is that maybe someday, since we know all this talent, if we do have an opening for an entry-level photographer or an entry-level graphic designer or video editor or motion graphics artist, what have you, we do have a pool of labor. We have our fingers on the pulse of the rising stars and new talent. But there are many semesters where we have 4 interns and no openings, and we have spent thousands of dollars in terms of time and resources per semester to host these interns, and many of them have a hard time finding an internship. And they need the credit hours through the universities. They need 150 hours. So they got to do it somewhere. So we want to make a meaningful impact. We want them to have a meaningful experience. But when this call came in and this person claimed that he was just offended and completely disrespected with the manner that we conducted his interview, and so therefore he wasn't going to intern, I said to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? I was ready at that moment to completely can the intern program. I was so frustrated. And at that moment, I had to retrace my steps. I had to go back to all of the reasons why we have an intern program, all the reasons we build up this Akron Buzz experience for those who maybe want to do television or journalism. It's just a great place. And those who want to do corporate video or produce TV commercials or do documentaries, then spending time at Mosher Media is great. And I remembered the reason we created Akron Buzz is because in the world of video production, there are times where we are not busy. It is possible that you could have 2 or 3 interns in your office staring at you. And back before we had the Akron Buzz program, this happened. And I thought, this is not a meaningful experience for these students. They're sitting here writing stuff in Word or they're just tinkering with the equipment. I need something with a structured environment, something with so they can come away with something for their portfolio. I had to remind myself all the reasons we created Akron Buzz and why we built up such a great intern program where Akron Buzz could be the foundation and the structure. And when something exciting is happening at Mosher Media or one of our other video production companies that we have in our mix, that we could recruit from that Akron Buzz program. We know we have 3 students coming in on a Wednesday. We can say, hey, we only need 1 of you in the Akron Buzz studio. How about 2 of you go on that TV commercial shoot? I had to run through all the reasons again in my head. And that's what you need to do when you have a frustrating, forgetful moment and you say, what am I doing? You have to go back and rethink all of the reasons, all of the choices you made to get to that point where you're questioning yourself. I am raising a 14-year-old. And if you want to talk about moments where you say, what am I doing? I've got one for you. I took in this child when he was 7. And I won't share with you the whole story, but I became an unofficial foster parent when he was about 8. We'll just say that, let's say he was just a lost kid and the parents were in a little trouble. And they're off getting their life straightened out. And through the power of the higher power looking after us somehow, and through the court system, through juvenile court, I have the incredible honor and challenge of becoming a parent and raising a child. So now here we are, and that was 2012, 13, 14 era where he came into my life and then was officially placed with me as I'm the custodian. And now he's 14, and he is the greatest kid in the world, and I tell him that every day. But right now he's in the 8th grade, and he decided to join the wrestling team, and I totally support this. I love the after-school activities. He's far more athletic than I was. In high school or grade school, I was the guy with the video camera. I was the audio-visual guy, right? So now I'm raising a son that's super athletic, and I support it, and I can live vicariously through him because he's good at baseball. He's good at gymnastics. He's good at everything he tries. So he tells me he's joining the wrestling team, which of course I totally support. And he tells me that practice is from 3:40 to 5, and he's going to stay after, and I need to pick him up at 5, which of course I can do. Well, then he calls me and says he has the times mixed up and that it's going to be from 5 to 6. So he's just going to come home. And then I have to drive him over there at 5. So then I drive him over there at 5, and we go in, and he turns out he had it right the first time. It was actually from 3:40 to 5. So God bless him, he's just a little confused. It's the practices are just getting started. The kids are just communicating with each other. There's probably an email about it from the coach or from the school somewhere in my thousands of emails, and I just haven't gotten to it, so I don't know what's going on. Or maybe he's joined unofficially. Maybe he's not even on the wrestling team. He's just going to practice. I really don't know. So he calls me from school today, and he says, okay, so I'm going to go to the practice tonight. I'm going to get there at the right time. I'm going to just stay after school. I'll go at 3:40, pick me up at 5. And then he goes, but by the way, I need wrestling shoes. Well, it's 2 o'clock. And he's calling me from school. He should be doing homework in school or doing the schoolwork. They have phones in every classroom now. Everybody's got a phone. So he's calling me from school to tell me I got to get him wrestling shoes for practice. So I say, fine, okay, all right. I go over to the Dick's Sporting Goods at 2:15 in the afternoon, and I'm looking at the wrestling shoes. They are $100. They're $100 for the wrestling shoes. Now, of course, they don't have his size in the ones that are $50 or $60. They have these Asics over here, and they're $50. They're $60 for the Asics, and they have these Adidas over here on the left. Those are $100. And the only ones they have his size are the Adidas that are $100. I'm not even sure he's going to be on the team. What if I spend the $100 and he either isn't really officially on the team or he doesn't stick with it? If he wears them one time, I can't return them. And it's not about the money. It's about the moment where I'm in the Dick's Sporting Goods and it's 2:20 and one of my crew members, one of my employees, who is a wonderful person, of course, and he calls me. He says, where are you? We're supposed to be. And then I remember there was supposed to be a meeting, and I was going to be in there. Now, he's going to handle the meeting. He can handle the meeting. But I was going to be in the meeting to support and to be involved in projects at work. And he's a great worker. He's a little new to the company. So I'm supporting him. I want to be in the meeting. Now here I am at the Dick's Sporting Goods trying to figure out why I have to spend $100 on wrestling shoes, and they're going in the back and they're trying to find his size in the A6 so that I don't have to spend it. And they keep coming back. They're like, we just don't have any in the back. They have nothing in the back. Why do they even have the back? There's nothing there. So right then and there, I just have a what am I doing moment. What am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? How did I get here? How did I get here? I would never give up. Certainly, being a parent is the greatest assignment I have ever had in my 45 years. And through the court process, I can remember, I had so much family support and still do, but I can remember being in court on the day the magistrate was going to make the ruling and name me as the custodian. And the magistrate said, Mr. Mosher, do you understand that I'm going to make you the custodian? And you are going to be the legal guardian for this child. Do you understand? I said, yes, Your Honor. She said, do you understand that once I issue this order, you cannot return the child to this court or to Child Protective Services? I said, my dad laughed out loud. And I said, yes, Your Honor, I understand. And so when you say, what am I doing? You can't say, should I give up? When you are a parent, you cannot give up. And I would never pass judgment on those who have given up on children and on parenting. And of course, that's a terrible thing. But by the grace of God, by the work of a higher power, somehow, unfortunately, there are children whose parents have said, what am I doing? And given up. And if there weren't for those kinds of folks, I wouldn't get to be a parent. I will say that I am committed, certainly, to this career, this wonderful business. And I love the what am I doing? It's time to retrace our steps. And I love the retrospect, the reflection. Go back to the beginning. How did I get here? What am I doing here? And I will tell you, when I became a parent, everything changed. My view on everything changed. And I had a wonderful marriage to this business. And through that, I was in a position where I could do everything else I want to do in life, from becoming a parent to collecting Knight Rider cars. I sure appreciate you listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the topic I've presented today, and hope you find yourself in a what am I doing, and use the idea of retracing your steps and thinking back to where the journey began. Please find us on YouTube. Of course, maybe you're listening on YouTube now. You can see right there. We are youtube.com/Mosher Media. We are on Facebook, of course, facebook.com/Mosher Media. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. All of these things are at Mosher Media. My email address, dan@moshermedia.com. And of course, here you might be listening on SoundCloud. So on SoundCloud, just as you can imagine, we are soundcloud.com/Mosher Media. And our phone number, I love the phone number. And on nearly every podcast I've talked about, there's going to be an entire podcast on the question, do we need a phone number? In an era where people reach out through the cell phone, through the LinkedIn connection. I'm on LinkedIn too. Hey, we're linkedin.com/Mosher Media. Find us there. But there will be a podcast coming soon on the topic, do you need a phone system for a business, for your business in the year 2019? And that's a question for another day because we are out of time. I thank you for listening. Please connect with us online and have a great day.